Okay, hi, I'm Riley.
And I'm Logan.
And for this week, we mostly just worked on our projects in class, but that was really helpful because I've been having trouble with loops and stuff. So I understood like the draw functions, but being able to put it in so I could repeat it. And especially the random number generator was really helpful. So to get the freckles in the clouds to randomly generate and also to like know how to put the dimensions so I could get them exactly where I needed was really helpful. I would I know some people were talking about like if else statements and that they kind of learned about them to make things like blink, wink and stuff. I would like to learn more about those because I'm not super clear on them, but they make a lot of really cool tricks happen. Um, it was also really interesting to see everyone else's code. I didn't really know, but it makes a lot of sense that you can take away the comments if you just have a bunch of functions, and then at the end, you know exactly where everything is because it's already labeled previously, and then when you put it at the end, it makes it a lot easier and a lot cleaner for your code. So I would like to start doing that in the future. That was something that I learned this week from seeing other people's code.
Yeah, I honestly going into the project had very little, didn't really know what I was doing. But I think the one thing I mastered was the while statements. I use a lot of those for my windows on my building and also the teeth on my self-portrait. I'm still a little confused on where it's appropriate to use functions, whether or not you should use it when you have even just one duplicate of a shape or if it should be more. And also, like Riley said, I'm not really sure when to use the if statements and how those work. One thing I was really trying to figure out is the key is pressed function, and I don't know if Khan Academy has an actual command for it, but I really wanted my face to be able to move with the arrow keys, and I couldn't seem to make that work. So that's something I would like to know in the future. And looking at everyone else's presentations this week, I realized there was a lot more that I could have added to mine. One thing I wish I had done was use the Bezier curves for most of my shapes instead of the actual predetermined shapes, because obviously a self-portrait, none of the shapes on my face are really pre-coded other than a lips for the eyes, and so it wasn't a very good likeness. Yeah.
So, I agree with Logan that I felt like I could have done more, especially in terms of like a lot of people did winking or blinking and stuff, and that seemed like that was cool. I used the Bezier curves, but they were really hard to use, and the number scrubbing was useful, but I also wish I had a better grasp on like actually what I knew what I was doing, so I didn't have to spend so much time like trying to figure out where the exact numbers are and moving all of them. Um, Yeah, I like the interactive stuff though, like the mouse is pressed. If we could do more like interactive stuff in the future, like codes that interact more with the mouse, maybe like learning how to code a game or something, like something simple would be really fun. I think that'd be a cool direction to go.
Yeah. One thing I really didn't expect from this project was was all the time it took, because I mean realistically each of our drawings had at a maximum like maybe 40 different shapes that we coded in, but I'm pretty sure we all put 2+ hours into all of this, and I honestly didn't really expect that from coding, because in the end you end up with not that many lines of code, but there's so much trial and error, and I didn't think that I'd need to test out pretty much every aspect, and it would take that long to figure out exactly what I wanted. And it was harder than I thought to get the picture of what was in my head into the code and make it look exactly like I thought, and I honestly didn't really end up looking exactly as I would have wanted, especially my Doheny drawing. I couldn't quite get the proportions like of the windows to the actual building right, and there was a lot of stuff that I struggled with. And obviously that comes with practice, but I guess I didn't realize that coding was such an arduous task in general.
Yeah, I agree. It took me a while. Also, I was like doing things where like I knew that there was like a specific thing that I could do, but I didn't really quite know what that was. So I think like getting myself more familiar and like not like needing less help, but being able to like see the problem and come up with a solution. But I think like the more and more we learn about like loops, if else statements, and all things like that, it becomes easier to like have the picture in your head of what you want to do and be kind of almost brute forcing it, but like knowing there's a better way, just being able to apply those things more and more in all of our coding things.
Yeah, no, I yeah. I really liked his suggestion of to brute force the entire thing to start with, and then get all your shapes and finish your drawing, and then go back and use the functions and whatnot to make it smaller, I guess. I think that's a really good way to do it and have less errors, because a lot of times this happened so many times on especially my Doheny drawing. I would put in like a while statement or a function and literally nothing would happen, and like I didn't know why, so I just had to delete it and try a new function. I don't know, that was tough for me.
Yeah, along with that, like when I would do a loop, but then I want to put animation in there, and then it would make everything start freaking out too. So also like knowing which things can go together and which things like make each other freak out. So like, because I wanted to have more, but then almost like I didn't know how I could like make it cohesively all go together, where like the code didn't freak out or start doing things I didn't want to do, or like stop doing things that I wanted it to do.
Yeah, so one big question I had is, can you even have like two draw loops going at the same time? So if, like, say you wanted to have your sun move and then your body move or whatever in your self-portrait, but since they both redraw the background every time, like, I don't even know if that'd be possible. So that was one thing I was interested in adding, but I couldn't really figure out a way to do it so that those were the only two things moving and everything else stayed consistent.
Yeah, so for future directions of the class, I think it'd be cool to go into more like game design. I think would be cool, like interactive things. I like being able to code pictures and stuff. I wouldn't mind also going into a little bit of like the history, so learning about Alan Turing was pretty interesting, more of like how things came to be. Like I think that would also be cool to know and figure out, but definitely like I would like to keep learning more JavaScript and getting more into that code. I also wouldn't mind like learning Python and then being able to do things with Python as well as being able to do it with JavaScript. Also being able to do it in like an environment different than Khan Academy would be something that I would really want to do.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to do it in the same environment that an actual, professional program coder would do it in, because Khan Academy I feel like is a bit like training wheels, and I would like to see how difficult it is outside of that environment. And I do want to look at Python more, because I think, as you showed in class, there's a lot more possibilities to it in terms of drawing, and I think game design would be really cool, because I remember way back freshman year of high school we used this kind of same sort of deal as Khan called Scratch, which was like handicap coding, and we all made these really fun games and it was pretty easy. But I think it'd be cool to learn some game coding, but actually how the code is drawn, not Scratch style. And I would really like to see the history as well, specifically of the individual languages. I don't know if there's an original one that was the first coding language, and how did they come up with the language? Was it just arbitrary, or did the commands have some sort of basis in, I don't know, like a scientific principle or something?
Also, like why new ones kept getting developed, like what were they trying to fix, or like what did the old languages lack, I think would be interesting to get into also. So, but that's pretty much it for me.
I think it'd be really cool to look at even more languages, because I know there's a ton. And I don't know if certain companies use certain languages, and does it have something to do with maybe the encryption, so that say if Apple uses their coding, I don't know what it'd be, like JavaScript, but then Microsoft uses Python, and obviously they wouldn't use those, but would they use their own language to make sure that their stuff's totally individual and unique, or do they all use a standard? I don't know. I think it'd be really fun to look into what specific areas of computer development, what codes they use. Yeah, and that's about it for me too.
All right.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.